Hello, I'm Nick Briggs, returning to my favourite dimension. And you join me at this midnight hour as we ask, is it ever possible to create the perfect world? That was the question inherent in Thomas More's famous speculative work Utopia back in 1516, a few years before he became Henry VIII's Chancellor. Was it a serious projection of the future? Or was it a satire on the chaos of European politics of the time? You decide. Back in 2016, the poet Michael Symmons Roberts adapted More's Utopia for the 500th anniversary of this classic work. And he brought the book's strange and enchanting island to life through the memoirs of Raphael Hythloday. This is Utopia.
Utopia by Thomas More, dramatised by Michael Symmons Roberts.
It is nothing if not strange, the way a city resists you if you don't belong there. Antwerp has been good to me, as it is good to every explorer, seafarer, wanderer who washes up here. But my heart and soul will always belong elsewhere.
Raphael, you look melancholic this morning.
My face just falls that way, Mr. Giles.
I didn't see you at Mass.
I meet my God here in the square these days.
Well, there's someone else I'd like you to meet. I have a visitor staying at my house from England. He's a brilliant man, a scholar and a diplomat.
Why would you want to meet me?
You have seen the world, my friend. You have the best stories I have heard. And he needs entertaining. He's having a terrible time here.
Do you know why I'm here?
To visit Mr. Giles?
No. Well, it's true that his company's all that keeps me sane, but I am here to resolve a dispute.
That sounds important.
No, it concerns wool. Well, the wool trade.
I suppose that is important.
Yes, to men who think money is the most important thing in the world.
And to sheep.
Of course, to sheep. Oh, but it has kept me here for weeks, trying to solve intractable disputes. Stubborn people on both sides, greed and self-interest. That is our fallen world. And I miss my family terribly.
But I do my best to make him think well of Antwerp.
You are the best thing about this place, Giles. Wine after Sunday morning mass, is that allowed here?
Actively encouraged, eh, Raphael?
I have reached the stage of life where I accept wine from anyone, at any time.
I hope you will accept lunch, too.
Yes, please, stay for lunch. I want to hear about the cannibal giants, sirens and mermaids you've seen.
Oh yes, lots of those. But I can tell you about more than monsters. I have seen other ways of living. Alternatives to that greed you speak of.
You believe in a better society? Have you been to England?
Many years ago.
I dare say that doesn't help.
I was treated with kindness there. But England is not perfect.
Is he attacking England now?
No man should diagnose a disease without proffering a cure too.
Ah, excellent. It should be a fascinating lunch. Come on in.
And so, the best ideas for organizing our lives are ignored. And the worst are taken up with passion and vigor, like holy writs.
He's right, Moore.
I'm not saying he's wrong. All I'm saying is that not all human beings are venal and self-serving.
Most people will do anything to enhance their wealth and status.
You intrigue me, Raphael. I mean, you're clearly well-read in the classics. You have a philosophical turn of mind, huge experience of the world and its ways, but it is entirely unrealistic as a way of ordering the world.
Why do you say that with such certainty?
Because without the motivation to provide for oneself and one's family, I mean, what is our reason to get up in the morning and work?
If all property were held in common, there would be no need for that motivation.
It is totally unrealistic.
Have you seen every human society? How can you be sure that it's impossible?
Human nature tells me so, and scripture. We had paradise, but we squandered it.
Well, I have seen it. I have lived in a society where there is no private property, no hunger, no unseemly wealth, and no poverty.
Was that England, Raphael? Eh, Moore? It must be England, because it sure ain't Antwerp.
It is an island. but not England. Far from here to the south. I lived there for 5 years. I was a young man, easily distracted. I had got separated from Vespucci and the ship.
Too tempted by the pleasures of the flesh, Raphael?
I tried to rejoin the expedition, but got blown off course. I was running out of food when, to my relief, I saw an island. At first glance, it wasn't that strange. I was used to exotic travel, after all. The people were friendly, and it didn't take long to pick up their language. It is the most logical and intuitive language I have ever heard. If it's close to any tongue, it would be Persian. Perhaps with a little Greek. I speak both, so I found it relatively simple.
They must have felt threatened by you, a stranger from the sea. Were you questioned?
Hardly at all. They put me in a cart with a group of other people, locals. From the look of them, they had been working. They were on their way home. One of them gave me his cloak to keep me warm. Another gave me some bread. They made me feel welcome.
You must have been desperate to get back home.
Any homesickness I may have felt vanished when we reached the brow of a hill and I saw the city for the first time. It was a city I'd only known in my dreams. And even in those dreams, I couldn't conjure the scent of the place. A mixture of spices and incense and blossom and sandalwood.
So you chose to stay?
I was weak with hunger and young and impulsive. I thought, why not stay and get to know the place? They gave me a comfortable house and as much food as I needed. And the longer I stayed, the more fascinated I was by their way of life. The fact was that they had found a new model for society.
Wait. Before you tell us about their politics, tell us about them. And what did they look like, dress like? What did they eat?
They ate much simpler fare than this, I can assure you.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I will not be outdone by savages.
They were far from savages, Mr. Giles. They had their own laws, customs, music, sciences. Their island was called Utopia. And the major city, the one I lived in, was called Amorot.
And was it as beautiful as Antwerp?
Surely not, Peter.
More beautiful. It lies between gentle hills and the mighty river Amaider. The houses are open to each other across streets and to their extravagantly fruitful gardens. There are doors, but no locks.
Sounds like a thief's paradise.
Far from it. Because no place can ever be owned as private, and because houses are reallocated every decade anyway, theft is unheard of.
I think you were being duped, Raphael.
I know it seems hard to believe, but they had no money, knew nothing of it. Everyone dressed the same, in simple colors, smocks and breeches, rough cloaks to keep out the cold.
If it is true, Raphael, that these utopians are immune to the temptations of riches and finery, then it is surely due to ignorance. If an outsider like you offered them sumptuous robes or jewels, they would be drooling like beggars on their knees.
You are wrong, sir. I have seen that tested. A few months after my arrival, word went out that we had visitors from Amorot. Distinguished visitors, ambassadors from Anemolia. I had, by then, befriended my neighbor, Barzanes. He was a minor bureaucrat, a bit of a bore, but he knew everything about the place.
Oh, no. What a shameful spectacle.
They look wonderful, don't they? Are Anemolians as rich as that?
Rich? They look like convicts draped in gold like that. Convicts or fools. We've had this happen before.
What?
Visitors from nearby know our customs. They adjust their own so as not to offend us. Visitors from far off, like these, seek to impress us with such a parade of silk and gold and pearls. But our children simply laugh at them. My wife has stayed at home. I knew this was coming and it would make her nauseous.
I don't get it. You have these things too. I've seen the children picking up pearls on the shore, and I'm told there are rubies and diamonds in the mountains.
Yes, children pick them up, as you say. They are trinkets, toys. Is there any gold in your guest house?
Yes, even my chamber pot is gold. I was very honored when I saw that.
Oh, it's no honor. All our chamber pots are gold, as are the balls and chains used in our jails. We have rendered riches harmless, robbed them of their power.
They hold no value for you.
Well, how can you value gold if you empty your bowels on it each morning?
I'm glad I came here as a poor explorer then, rather than a prince.
Oh, look. The poor ambassadors are baffled by us. They offer their hands to be kissed by the children, but the children point and laugh.
Where are they going?
The children want to greet the poor folk at the back of the entourage. The ones in simple clothes. They think the servants are the real ambassadors.
Oh dear, they look horrified, the poor old folks. Years spent accumulating wealth and power, and now they are laughingstocks.
Utopia is a difficult place for a rich man to visit.
That's clever, I'll grant you.
It's not clever, Giles. It's obvious. But we value things for many reasons, some arbitrary. Beauty, rarity, yes, but often simple custom. If we are told that diamonds are precious, we covet them. That's human frailty.
Not in Utopia, it isn't.
So perhaps they covered iron or leather, or, Lord help us, wool instead of gold. You can change what we covered, but the fact that we covered remains.
In 5 years on Utopia, I never once saw evidence of a citizen envying another citizen's property.
But surely envy is an errant form of aspiration. To feel envious is to want something, to aspire to something. And without aspiration, the world stops turning.
Well said, Giles. Aspiration, passion, a longing for more. These are the wellsprings of culture. If your utopians are purged of all envy, aspiration, then I imagine their culture is purged of any art for fear of bright colours, any music for fear of dancing, any poetry for fear that the heart might be moved by it.
You gentlemen might relish an argument fueled by wine, but I will not allow you to traduce a culture we should seek to emulate, not to mock. You paint them as a race of soulless sleepwalkers.
Then prove us wrong, Raphael.
For want of rescue.
Would a cultureless society invite a stranger to teach them poetry?
Perhaps, if it didn't know any.
Of course they knew poetry, but they asked me to teach them what I knew, poems from the lands I had visited. Their working lives were arranged to allow time for classes in music, crafts, languages, astronomy. They had a great passion for learning.
See you next week, and as ever, please continue with your translations.
Sir, thank you. I think that was my favourite so far.
Really? To be honest, I've always found it a bit sentimental, but a lot of people at home love it, so I thought...
Oh, no, sir, not sentimental. Is it your poem?
Mine? You mean did I write it? No. It's a very old poem. I can't remember all of it.
Only I'm about to become betrothed to Achorian.
That young man at the back. You will make a fine couple.
Well, I was wondering if I might use the poem at our wedding.
Yes, of course, if you'd like to. I'm sure I could find a better one.
No, it's perfect.
You're planning ahead then. What do you mean by about to become betrothed?
There is a custom here, sir. A practice we must go through first.
What custom is that?
I would rather not say, sir. It is delicate, but important.
Now, Raphael, answer me this. If utopian citizens are to meet and marry and reproduce, then how do they court each other without any privacy, no locks on any doors?
It is no different from having a chaperone. Couples can take walks together, converse freely, but in company. Their meals are communal, so they could sit next to each other and talk over dinner.
So it's like having 1,000 chaperones at your shoulder throughout your courtship. I mean, what is their problem with privacy?
What is the price of privacy? Gossip flourishes behind closed doors. Resentment and bitterness, envy. The couple I met in that poetry class lacked nothing in sensitivity or tenderness, but...
But what?
There was an unusual element to their courtship.
Sounds intriguing. Tell us.
You're going to find it odd, but you must understand the context. I first experienced it as part of my new job. As an honored visitor, and to thank me for my poetry classes, they made me a minor government official. A Sivogrant.
A what? You look anxious.
Well, I've never done this before.
It might seem strange in your culture, but it is perfectly customary in ours.
It just seems a bit, well, cold somehow.
Well, it's for the better protection of everyone involved. How many marriages fester because of some hidden deformity or horror that is revealed on the wedding night when it's too late?
Do you all have hidden horrors then?
Of course not. Perhaps I exaggerate, but would you buy a horse if all but its head was covered with a blanket?
It's not quite like buying a horse, though, is it?
And the majority of young couples enter into this ceremony willingly, knowing that it's for the best.
The majority? What happens to the rest?
Should we come in now?
Yes, do come in. Now, stand on opposite sides of the room, about 10 feet apart. A bit more. Yes, that's right. Please introduce yourselves.
They're in my poetry class. This is embarrassing.
It doesn't matter. And let the ceremony begin. Please introduce yourselves for the official record.
My name is Achorian, a citizen of Amarot.
My name is Abraxa, a citizen of Amarot.
My name is Barzanes, and this is my newly appointed fellow Syphogrant, Raphael. So, you may now remove your clothes. Top half first, then the bottom half.
Could you turn away or something?
We are here as citizen witnesses. The rules state that we must be sure you look upon each other in complete nakedness, to allow you to make your informed decision.
I can look away if it helps.
No, you cannot. If you look away, the entire ceremony is invalid and will have to be repeated.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Now, please remove your clothes.
All of them?
As I said.
Ugh. It's freezing.
Now, stand until I say you can pick up your clothes. Can you see each other clearly? Or do you need to move closer?
Clearly. Thank you.
Now, give each other a proper inspection. Very well. Now, I have to ask you a formal question before you can dress. Abraxa, citizen of Amarot, are you satisfied with what you see in this man?
I am.
Achorian, citizen of Amarot, are you satisfied with what you see of this woman?
Yes, I am.
Yes, a simple I am is enough. Raphael Hythloday, as a Syphogrant observer, are you satisfied that the process has been conducted fairly and fully?
Well, it looked like it.
Then, Abraxa and Achorian, you may consider yourselves betrothed.
It was a bit strange at first. I did officiate at a number of ceremonies after that.
A bit strange. It's barbaric.
It got odder after that, because that young woman, Abraxa, kept coming to my poetry classes with her new husband. She was very good. She had a wonderful ear for language. Her translations were more beautiful than the poems they were based on.
Are you sure it was her translations you were finding beautiful? After all, you were a long way from home.
I was betrothed to a woman at home, and at that point I still hoped one day to return and marry her.
I'm not sure that answers my question.
Hello, Mr. Hythloday.
Hello.
Thank you for those poems. It means a great deal to have our minds open to new worlds.
The world of Utopia is wonderful enough, isn't it?
Of course. But we're not afraid of other cultures. We are hungry to learn about them. How do you know so many poems? Do you commit them all to memory?
Books. I always travel with two. The Psalter and the Poetry Anthology.
Can I see?
Here.
Oh. Did you make this book yourself? I have never seen a hand so steady, so perfect.
It was printed in Leuven. I bought a copy there.
You must have wonderful scribes in Leuven.
Are all your books copied by hand?
Of course. Do you know another way?
I think I have found a way I can improve Utopia.
Can I borrow your poetry book?
I can do better than that.
So there was a lack in this perfect society of yours?
They were not aware of it as a lack, because they were adept at hand copying into parchment.
So, what did you print on this new press?
Poems, at first. My own selection from the book. My early efforts were poor. Rather rough attempts.
Before you go, I have a surprise for you all. These are for you if you want them.
They're identical.
Yes! I can produce many copies of the same text this way, so you can take the poems home with you.
This is the most beautiful. Turn them on your tongue and cut me free.
I'm sure there are better lines.
I love it.
The ink is unclear in this one.
It's my first attempt. It will get better. I've been working on it by myself so far.
I will help you.
Oh, Achorian, you too?
Abraxa will help you, but I'm afraid I cannot. I've been called away for 6 months of agricultural duty.
Is not Abraxa going with you? I believe that is your custom.
Abraxa has asked for dispensation. She wishes to continue her studies with you, sir.
And you are happy with that?
It is what my wife has chosen.
We are running out of wine at just the wrong moment.
I have had enough, thank you.
Johann, bring us more wine.
Now, Raphael, I have a question. If this Utopia was so perfect, then why are you here?
I think you gentlemen are using me for sport. I don't believe you want to hear about their way of life at all.
Neither me nor Giles would claim that London or Antwerp or anywhere else we've been is perfect. You are claiming Utopia is a perfect society.
Not perfect, but better. The closest to perfect I have seen.
Yet you left it after 5 years.
He's told you more. He was betrothed. He must have been missing his beloved girl.
Alas, that is not the reason. And when I returned, she had married another man. I couldn't expect her to wait for 5 years, could I?
We are embarrassing poor Raphael. More.
If I ask you a question, Raphael, will you promise me that you will answer honestly?
Of course, if I can.
Did you send Achorian away to the fields?
Me? How could I do that?
You have official powers, don't you, as a civigrant?
I have very minor duties. Clerical, administrative, that's all.
Is that your honest answer?
Yes, of course.
Very well then.
Why would I send your husband away?
No reason. I just wondered. Excuse me, sir. Would you like to read our book?
What are you doing? Abraxa?
Yes, look at them. We will produce such fine books here. They will be the envy of the old world.
Whoa. We have built one hand press. I don't think we can make more than a few poetry pamphlets.
I want to write books about everything, about the way we live and the way we might live in the future.
But you have the most perfect society imaginable.
Do we?
Keep your voice down, Abraxa. There are people staring all around us.
Let them!
Soon after that, things began to change. My neighbor, the officious Barzanes, began to attend all my poetry classes, along with his wife, Macaria. I was being watched.
I have a question for you, Mr. Teacher.
Yes?
What is the purpose of a form of communication in which meaning is obscured?
I'm sorry?
These poems you show us from ancient Greece or ancient Rome or ancient wherever else, they're full of fine words, I'm sure, but they are willfully obscure. They do not tell us what they mean.
But surely meaning is not so simple.
And those that are clear in meaning are offensive to us.
To who?
My wife was brutalized by several of the poems last week. There were lines describing gold and jewels as if they were signs of glory, and she found that offensive.
I did. And there were other lines evoking bestial acts or conjuring a world of inequality.
There is a world of inequality.
Not here.
But shouldn't you allow ideas to circulate freely? Isn't that part of your open society? No logs, no private property.
And no offensive tracts.
Our society thrives because everyone feels safe here. Anyone who violates their code should be denied the opportunity to spread their contagion.
I got your note.
Were you seen?
I don't think so.
I thought we needed to talk after what happened in the class.
I know.
We must abandon the press.
No more printing.
No more printing, I'm sorry.
That Barzanes is a pompous old fool, and his wife.
He's not a bad man, but he sees me as a threat. I wanted to warn you to be careful.
Of what? Who's threatening me?
Don't you see? I was given freedom as long as I didn't upset the fragile balance of Utopia. But now you are associated with me. They know we have met outside the class.
In public places?
Yes, mostly. But we have met outside the class, and you have been to my house to help with the printing.
With Achorian's blessing and permission. He wrote to me yesterday saying how thrilled he was to think of me reading and studying and learning.
Nonetheless, if I'm under suspicion, then you must cut free from me.
What do you mean? I don't want to cut free from you.
I am suspending the classes. At least until I've had a chance to discuss them properly with Barzanes.
No!
I'm worried about you, Abraxa. You mean a great deal to me.
Then why do you want to cut free from me?
It's the last thing I want. But I worry that I am a contagion in this place.
Oh, Raphael. Oh. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I knew it.
You knew he'd fall in love with her?
Not that. I knew that in your perfect society, the slightest hint of subversion, and it would bare its teeth.
That is not the case.
But you start printing, and they threaten you.
I was not threatened. Utopia exists in a harmony, a balance more peaceful and perfect than any under the sun. Like any delicate balance, it needs protection, for the sake of all who rely on it.
You stopped teaching the poetry classes,
And I left a few days later.
they felt threatened by your ideas, so they drove you out.
You know nothing about Utopia. And you don't deserve to.
We know you're lying.
More!
We know you're not telling us the truth, because you've said several times that you were in Utopia for 5 years. And we're not even halfway through the story.
You can't accuse Raphael of lying more.
Your English guess is right. I haven't told you the whole story. I choose not to.
It seems you are as unwilling to hear opposing views as your utopian hosts. What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of nothing.
Then tell us the truth about this island. My central question remains unanswered. If this society is so perfect, then why did you leave?
Come on, Raphael, sit down, please.
If you insult Utopia, you insult me.
You can rely on me to control my guest if he gets out of hand.
Very utopian.
Why should I tell you the rest of the story?
Because if you don't, I will be free to draw my own conclusions.
All right. But the rest of the story is not so easy to tell. We had started to print poems for anyone who wanted them. Any poems we could find, Latin and Greek in particular, and Abraxa started to translate them into their utopian language. But when they started watching us, it was too dangerous. I had to dismantle the press.
I can't bear it.
It has to be done.
We're supposed to be free in Utopia.
Yes, but you are free only to make the right choices.
Sometimes I want to make a wrong choice. Achorian is coming home next month.
Can you pass me that box?
Tell me about your city.
Which one? I'm a traveler. I have lived in many cities.
Your favorite city?
That would be Antwerp.
Antwerp? Strange name.
A city of many moods. It can be freezing and forbidding when the wind blows in off the sea, or steeped in sunshine on a still July day.
And what is your favorite place in Antwerp?
The main square, outside the Cathedral of Our Lady.
Is it beautiful?
Abraxa. The great nights I have had in those taverns, under Our Lady's protecting gaze. I would love to take you there, but...
Is it so impossible?
Here. I've got something for you.
I can't wear that. People will laugh at me.
I know, you all despise gold. But we don't. I bought this for...
For your wife?
I don't have a wife. I bought it for someone at home, but I'd like you to have it.
Really?
Unless you despise it too much to wear.
I will wear it always. Under my clothes, then no one will see.
Achorian will see it.
I will be careful. Thank you. Are you saying goodbye to me, Raphael?
If you ever find your way to Antwerp, promise me you'll visit that square.
I didn't see Abraxa for several months. I stopped printing and carried on with my official duties as a Sifogrant.
Watching people take their clothes off?
There was more to it than that.
Why didn't you leave? You had seen the place for what it was.
I couldn't bring myself to leave it. It still compelled me, fascinated me. But then, things changed rather suddenly. It was harvest time, and the whole city had come to the great temple for a festival of the sun god. Their temples are amazing, huge and sparse in decoration, but delicately candlelit to allow worshippers to see the priests, both men and women, officiating in their multicolored robes.
I am glad to see you here, Mr. Hythloday. Sometimes I worry that you hold our beliefs in contempt.
Contempt? Of course not. Quite the reverse.
Are you still distributing copies of your ancient poems?
No, not at the moment.
Oh, well, perhaps our ways are winning you over.
They won me over from the start, sir. That's why I've stayed.
Oh, you little brat! Where are his parents? Are you all right, Mr. Hythloday? He ran right into you.
I was all right, sort of. I feared the child had picked my pocket.
I thought there was no theft in Utopia.
There isn't. Anyway, when I put my hand in my pocket, I found he had not taken anything. He had put something there.
What's that?
Oh, just a scrap of paper. It's a prayer I was trying to learn for this ceremony.
Oh, just follow us. Stand when we stand, kneel when we kneel. All will be well.
Would you excuse me for a moment? I feel rather sick. I need some air.
Well, you'll need to be quick. They're about to start.
I walked out through the crowd, then ran round to the back of the building.
Are you all right?
Did you know the note was from me?
Of course I did. That line from the poem you love. What are you doing? You know I'm being watched.
We're all watched all the time.
Especially me. It's the printing press.
They think you're working to undermine Utopia.
Why would I do that? I have the utmost respect for your culture. You know that.
I wanted to see you.
Where's Achorian?
He's one of the celebrants. That's why I picked this moment. He'll be so busy.
We should go back in.
I wanted to give you this.
That's beautiful.
Do you like it? These are my 6 favorite poems from those we've studied. I've translated them all for you into our language, and some of my own. I hope it will mean something to you.
Oh, Abraxa.
Even without a printing press, I will write my dreams and visions out by hand if I must. See what you have awoken in me.
It means everything to me.
Mr. Hythloday, is this citizen assisting you with your feelings of nausea?
This is my fault, Mr. Barzanes. I asked him to meet me here, to give me a book.
Which book? This one?
Oh, no!
Leave it alone!
I'll arrest these 2 and take them to the Senate House.
So they took us into custody.
For what crime? Owning a book?
Adultery.
So it was a trumped-up charge?
There was no charge, as such. Their legal process is not like ours.
No justice by the sound of things.
It is a different justice. Every citizen knows the laws, and because those laws are for the benefit of all, they are rarely broken.
So, this man, Barzanes, was judge and jury over you?
By then, he was a Tranibor, a high official. He took my case to the Council of Tranibors, and they made their decision.
Without you there to defend yourself?
I was a threat to their way of life. They had to find some way of dealing with me.
And what was the penalty?
I should never have come here. These things have been buried for years. And so they should be.
Well, it clearly wasn't the death penalty, since you're here eating with us.
That might have been better.
A punishment worse than death?
What was it?
Too horrific to talk about. Was it thumbscrews? Burning coals?
Slavery.
Slavery? I don't know what to say.
Is it so shocking? What is Johann who has served us this lunch? What are the girls in the kitchen?
They are very far from slaves, Raphael. And I resent the suggestion. Servant does not mean the same as slave.
Doesn't it?
Is this a punishment reserved for foreigners?
No. It is for anyone who breaks the most serious laws. They are made slaves to serve other Utopians, their former friends or neighbors.
Forever?
It depends on the seriousness of the crime.
Johann, when you are ready and willing, would you be so kind as to bring more of that brandy?
Of your own free will, Johann.
Slaves in Utopia do not just serve in a home. They do that at night. But by day they work as hunters and butchers.
Could be worse. I like to hunt.
Not in Utopia. They regard every part of the preparation of meat as disgusting, degrading, beneath contempt. From the killing to the butchery, every stage of the process is carried out by slaves, beyond the city walls. No one else will watch, except the guards who oversee the slaves. And they are former slaves themselves.
No! No! Back off! You'll get your meat.
One day, hunting wild boar, I called the dogs off, then slit the boar's throat before cutting it up for the journey back.
There you go. Good dogs.
I gave the hounds the boar's head, cut the rest of it up, and put it in the sack. But I kept the heart back, wrapped it in leaves, and put it in my pocket.
I'm back, sir.
Covered in blood, I see. Another disgusting day's work.
Not by choice, sir.
Oh, yes, I think so. You knew our laws and you chose to break them.
Mr. Barzanes, how do you wish to spend the evening?
I shall read, Macaria.
And how do you wish me to spend the evening, sir?
You can direct the slave to clean the bedroom and then play me some music.
I have brought you both a present.
A present? Slaves do not give gifts. They have nothing to give.
We were civil to each other before this happened. I should like to be civil again. So I brought you a treat for your supper.
Get it out of here!
Oh, what is it?
The heart of the boar I've just killed. Still warm. Feel it.
Get out of my house! You will sleep in the street tonight!
Why did they enslave you to that tyrant?
As I told you, slaves are often given to neighbors, former colleagues, people they know. It sharpens the experience.
By this time, you must have been desperate to escape.
All I knew is that the city perimeters beyond the forest were guarded day and night, and that escapees, if caught, were subject to the most extreme punishments.
What became of the woman, Abraxa? Was she enslaved too?
She was, at first. But Utopian law states that if a husband or wife forgives their errant spouse, they need not be separated as long as the wronged partner is willing to share the fate of slaves.
Not much of a law, in my opinion. 2 slaves for the price of 1.
But Utopians are merciful people. In cases where the love and devotion of a wronged spouse is evident, and the criminal is penitent, the governor can grant a special pardon and give them back their liberty.
So your Abraxa was forgiven by her husband?
She was never my Abraxa. She belonged to Achorian, and he to her.
So they were set free?
After a few months of slavery, yes. They were allowed back to their old home, their old lives.
But not you.
I had no spouse to forgive me.
So, you were stuck with that monstrous couple.
I'm going to the Cifragrants monthly convention this evening. Do you remember those from your days as a responsible citizen?
I do. Perhaps slavery isn't such a punishment after all.
Well, if that's what you think, perhaps we should be working you harder.
I've got all this firewood to take inside yet.
Well, after you've done that, you can scrub the floors.
What are you making?
It's a repair. His tunic got ripped on a tree.
On a tree? There aren't any trees in this city. Not outside the forest, anyway.
Maybe it wasn't a tree. I wasn't listening closely when he told me it just needs repairing, that's all.
Is he spying on me? He's got me as his slave, but even now he's coming to the forest to spy on me.
I wouldn't put it like that.
How would you put it?
You worry him. He thinks you threaten our way of life.
I am a visitor, a foreigner. I did not come to destroy your culture. I was welcomed and treated well until your husband...
He is a good man.
I am not a criminal. You do know that.
He will go a long way to protect what we have here. No other nation lives like this. Without hunger, with equality, all property shared, all work allocated fairly.
Unless you're a slave.
And all that doesn't come about by accident. We have to be strong. We need to have rules, lines that cannot be crossed.
I understand that. I do. But is there nothing here you want to challenge? Is this perfection for you? Yesterday morning, before you went to the temple, I saw you going through your weekly confession.
We all confess our sins before we go to the temple.
Yes, I know. Children confess to their mothers, and wives like you get down on your knees and confess to your husband all your lapses and faults from the previous week.
Barzanes confesses too. All the men do.
To the priests, I know. But you have to kneel in front of your husband.
He is not a tyrant. He always responds with mercy and kindness.
Perhaps he does. But isn't that just like the old world? Man as head of household, woman kneeling to confess her faults. You have women as priests here, as officials and scholars, but in the home, the man is king.
You are a foreigner, as you said. You have no right to come here and criticize the way we live.
Are you going to tell him about this conversation?
So, every day you went off to work in the forest?
Yes. The hunting took place there. And the butchery, too. To hunt, to butcher, is to see living creatures simply as slabs of flesh. Hunks of meat. And it's a small step from that to regarding fellow human beings the same way.
So they leave it to slaves?
Better to harden the hearts of a few who are already damned. We had huts and yards among the trees with streams running through to wash away the blood.
And this Barzanes followed you there to spy on you?
Not that far, no. Only slaves went deep into the forest, where the slaughterhouses were. He wouldn't dare go that far. Which is why it was the perfect place for meeting those you were forbidden to meet.
There's something I miss about this place. Is it the smell of blood?
Achorian, I thought you were pardoned.
We were.
So, what are you doing here? What have you seen?
I've been careful, but I had to see you. Abraxa and I have a proposal to put to you.
What?
Your printing press. Do you still have it?
Yes. Why?
Will you teach us how to use it? Abraxa has been writing.
She wants to print her poems.
Not just poems. They are stories, satires. After what happened to her, to us, and after seeing how the slaves lived here, she started to write about Utopia.
Political writing.
I suppose it is.
You realize that is sedition, punishable by death.
We know what the risks are.
You want to move the press to your house?
No, out here, in the forest. There's an old huntsman's hide about a mile further out.
I know it. Are you sure?
Completely. I must go now. We will get a message to you with a time to meet. We need to wait until the right moment.
I don't know. It's so dangerous.
What are you risking? Do you want to live like this forever? I must go.
Achorian! How is Abraxa? Is she well?
She's well enough. She was never in love with you. You do know that. I hope you don't think
It never
that...
crossed my mind.
You became a printer of seditious pamphlets, did you?
For my sins, yes. Not seditious, more challenging, thoughtful. Abraxa was a very fine writer.
You must have known that you were risking their lives as well as your own.
They made their own choice, and they approached me to go through with it.
How many of these pamphlets did you print?
About one a month, for the best part of a year. We would run off a few hundred copies each time. Then Achorian was in charge of distribution. He knew the networks, scholars and slaves, but also one or two officials who felt they had been overlooked or disrespected.
People with a grudge against the state.
I think Achorian was willing to use whichever agency could find, even if their motives were not purely ideological.
And Abraxa, Raphael. You're being very coy about her. You were in love with her, weren't you?
Who is it?
It's me. Unlock it.
Abraxa! Come in quickly.
The only locked door in the whole of Utopia.
I thought it needed one.
Even out here, no one comes here.
I am not prepared to take that risk. Why have you come?
To deliver this. The papers for the next book. There are some drawings in it this time, and some maps.
Maps?
Of a new Utopia. A different way.
Why have you come? I thought Achorian made all the deliveries.
I wanted to see you. It's so good to see you, Raphael.
You are looking well.
I wanted to know if you've forgiven me.
Forgiven you? For what?
It is my fault you are enslaved.
You were enslaved too. It isn't your fault. I was the visitor. I should have been aware. I should have been more careful.
Do you regret meeting me?
Of course I don't.
I still think of that Greek poem.
For want of rescue, these words are the key.
Turn them on your tongue and cut me free. That's what you did for me.
Give me your hand.
Your hands are like icicles. Oh, Raphael, I don't know what...
Shh, Abraxa. Come with me.
I must go.
Does Achorian know you have come here?
Don't forget me, Raphael.
And that was the beginning of the end.
For you?
For all three of us. For our printing press. About a month later, the authorities got hold of one of our books, traced it back through the network, and found Abraxa and Achorian. It didn't take long to find me.
Have mercy, please!
Put him in chains!
No, I am a foreigner. Please forgive me!
Now,
No!
destroy that press.
No!
You said the penalty for sedition was death, but you are here.
It was, or so I was told. Not that I'd ever seen or heard of it happening. Truth be told, I hadn't seen any hint of rebellion or protest in the 5 years I was there, nor heard of any in their history.
Because it was so rigidly suppressed?
No. I think it's because most Utopians believed they lived in the best of all possible worlds. They felt equal in status and wealth to their neighbors. They were well-fed and housed. They all had work, but none of it backbreaking.
Unless you were a slave.
Unless you were a slave. And even slaves could redeem themselves by hard work and compliance. Many were returned to full citizenship.
Is that what happened to you?
I was taken back to Barzanes' house, placed under house arrest while they decided what to do with me. No foreigner had ever been executed, and they were afraid it might tarnish their reputation.
If it were up to me, I would have you expelled. Never to step on this island again.
I would be willing to go.
But the Senate has decided that you are too dangerous, with your love of printing and your loose tongue. If you were released to tell the world about us, you could do us much harm in the eyes of the world.
I would sign an undertaking not to speak about Utopia.
We are a trusting people, but we are not stupid.
Barzanes, I have made you supper. Would you like it now?
I will come through.
And for Mr. Hythloday too? Or where should I serve his food?
Another meal? He's a slave, you realize, and an enemy of Utopia, too. He should be fending for himself.
I fear it ill befits us to be brutal to any human being, Barzanes. Whether slave or senator, man or woman.
Oh.
Thank you, Macaria.
So, what do you think we should do with you, A man who seeks to undermine the very foundations of our community. Equality and fairness, justice and mutual support. What do we do with a man whose only loyalty is to himself?
I am not that man.
Well, let me tell you. Let me enlighten you, Mr. Hythloday. Our plan is to break all our codes of conduct in this case and to build a secure cell beneath the Senate House. Against our principles, this cell will be triple locked. You will be fed and comfortable, but you will never see the light of day again. That way, we can ensure you can no longer poison the well.
What about the others?
Abraxa and Achorian.
Yes. What happened to them?
I don't know. I pray every night that they were not put to death. I pray that they were exiled, perhaps under a code of silence, released to live elsewhere. I never reached the cell. Later that night, the night I was told about the cell by Barzanes, I was woken by a cold hand on my face.
What?
Shh. Macaria, what are you doing? Just listen. Here's a bag of food and drink to keep you going. Go now to the slaughterhouse at the edge of the forest. A man will meet you there and take you to a cove where a boat will be waiting.
What? Why?
Just do it.
But you are risking your own life. What would Barzanes
do? Barzanes is a good man. I know you can't see that, but everything he does is done to protect Utopia and its people.
So why are you helping me escape?
Perhaps I don't love Utopia quite as much as he does. Now go.
It has to be said, Raphael, that is a remarkable tale. I'm glad it had a happy ending.
Happy? I found it impossible to pick up my old life. What would motivate me to work when Utopia had weaned me off the love of money and possessions?
The need to eat, I should think.
Yes, I needed food and drink and a roof to keep me dry. But that wasn't hard. I got work as a butcher. One side effect of slavery was that I was an expert with the butcher's blades.
But you escaped. You lived to tell the tale. It's a salutary warning, too.
A warning? I don't see it that way. Why do you think I sit in the square outside Our Lady most days? Because it's the only place outside Utopia I ever discussed with Abraxa. It's the only place I can ever imagine seeing her again. I live in hope of her absolution.
Absolution? From what?
I still wake in the night, worried that I might have sown the seeds of Utopia's destruction. The naivety and arrogance of a young man.
Why would you feel the guilt about unsettling such a tyranny?
It was not a tyranny. The older I grow, the more I see it as a beautiful experiment. Who was I to destroy its fragile balance?
You waited for a utopian, but instead you met a curmudgeonly Englishman. I apologize for that, Raphael.
I am very grateful for your hospitality and for your company. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Goodbye, sir. And good luck.
Perhaps the Englishman was right. Maybe I am too sentimental about Utopia. But a few weeks later, at the Feast of Corpus Christi, I was in the square again, drinking wine with my friend Peter Giles, and talking about that island. Miss?
Yes, sir?
How much do I owe you?
I'll go and find out, sir.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir?
That necklace you are wearing,
What? Oh, it's an old one.
where did you get it? If you don't mind me asking.
From my mother. She got it as a gift from a man she was sweet on.
Where was your mother from?
Far away. The South Seas. But not me. My parents left before I was born.
My dear, we have so much to talk about. Get another bottle of wine and come and join us.
In Utopia, Raphael Hythloday was played by Raad Rawi, young Raphael by Nacho Aldeguer, Thomas More and Achorian by Michael Peavoy, Giles by Cameron Blakeley. Abraxa was played by Emily Pithon, Barzanes by Jonathan Keeble, and Macaria was played by Fiona Clarke. Utopia by Thomas More was dramatised by Michael Symmons Roberts and directed in Salford by Susan Roberts.